Chapter 9, Okaléé and the Chamber. We move into a tale within the earth. This is when the Ice Age was beginning to form, and the majority of life was leaving your planet. We speak now of a tribe that lived within the rocks and the earth, below the forming ice. They created tunnels and passageways through the ground to create rooms and places of living. We begin this memory with a father named Okaléé. Okaléé had a family that consisted of his 2 children, his wife, and himself. They were a family unit that looked more like the Neanderthals, but did not act so in their minds and gestures. Okaléé's family lived with several other families underground. They managed to create openings from the outside into their living quarters that created access to fresh air that would flow into their home. These humans were called the Elolias, and even though they did not survive the elements, they left their mark with what they created, to be found for the generations now. As humans begin to create the Golden Age, an era of connection and peace, living from the heart will fill each soul. Many discoveries will be found that coincide with the alignment of the universe. Okaléé was a father who was in survival mode every day of his life and was trying to create new ways of living for his family. Okaléé was the one that discovered a large room with high ceilings by accident, where echoed sounds would radiate throughout the chamber. He was visited in his dream state with a vision of this room, and immediately upon waking took on the task of finding this room. During this time on Earth, there were no distractions, only the will to survive. This vision that came forward was so far out of Okaléé's day-to-day thinking, he was grateful for such a mission. He told the others about what he saw, and the response was not one of cooperation. Okaléé would be on his own for a time while he began this new project. He continued to hunt, gather firewood, and connect with his family and the others, but his mind was now preoccupied with a greater purpose. Okaléé was intuitively guided to a wall where he would dig and take bucket after bucket of earth, disposing of it atop a cliff where their homestead lay underneath. He used his hands and handmade stone tools to dig for endless amounts of hours. After months of digging a continuous tunnel, Okaléé would be pleasantly surprised to find that this led to a massive opening of rock. This opening was a chamber created by the earth. It could fit hundreds of people, and the sound echoed like nothing Okaléé had ever heard before. He kept this discovery to himself for a few weeks, as the others had not wanted to partake in this task with him. Okaléé wasn't angry or upset about this. He felt he needed some time on his own to discover why he was shown this chamber. He used his own voice to echo the sound off the walls, and then used some of the stone tools, banging them against each other. He brought shells, grasses, and reeds in from the ocean to hear how the sound would reverberate throughout the chamber. It was by accident that he discovered the sound that a bull made when he tripped over the remains of his dinner. It was a usual occurrence now that Okaléé would take his dinner and eat in the chamber, sitting in deep thought. He would sit for hours thinking of ways to echo different sounds off of the walls. He just knew there was something more to it. When the bull rolled away from Okaléé, spinning on one spot, it made a sound that vibrated through the whole room. That is when the rest of his family and group came to see what he was up to. It wasn't until this point that they were interested, for when the spinning bowl vibrated through this chamber, It sent a sound that moved down the tunnel that Okaléé had dug out, to the areas that they lived in and through their bodies. Sound carries especially when it is at a certain tone or frequency. His family and the others gathered around Okaléé, and they were awestruck at his discovery. The group asked how they could help Okaléé, as it was now time to bring their ideas together and to use their voices to their full extent. Okaléé arranged each person by gender, the females in one group and the males in another. He asked each person one by one to yell, hum, and speak any sound that they wanted to make. Okaléé wanted to see how each sound felt throughout their bodies. Okaléé was like a conductor, giving them the signal when it was their turn, allowing each person to use their voice. Okaléé discovered some of the males' voices had a strong baritone that echoed off of the walls, that was felt deep in the body. Some of the women's voices also affected the body, but in a much softer, gentler way. Their vibration was subtle. The combination of the male and female tones was felt the strongest. Okaléé was reeling from all of these discoveries. The group liked what they were experiencing together so much that they decided to meet here every night after eating the evening meal and participate as a group together. This brought on new energy into the group as a whole. There was excitement and something new to talk about. Everyone was uplifted and happy. It was infectious. Each night, the group would go back to the chamber and practice different tones in their voices. There was patience with each person and respect for one another. The end result was that through certain sounds, especially in an amplified way in this chamber, there was healing, calm, and peace that moved into each one of these humans. The Alolias discovered when sounds echo off of the walls with a specific tone, this creates a lasting vibration that can shift their frequency into a much higher state. Through this practice of sound healing, they discovered this opened up other areas of their minds. This led them to deep silence when the sounds began and stopped, and this led them to yet another discovery. When their vibration rose from listening to the sound and they moved into deep silence, there was a way of connecting to others beyond this world. The Aloliaths started to connect to the stars when in silence, where they would connect to light beings and other galaxies. This illuminating discovery led them to information to create a labyrinth in their dwelling that would open up a portal, another passageway, for them to have experiences beyond Earth. Because Okaléé followed through on his dream and intuition, this led his family and their community in having the most awe-inspiring days and months left in their lives. For them to create and discover this information at such a primitive time was astounding. We bring you this forgotten memory from the human past to embrace what will happen for many of you now. In your dream time, there will be communication and very specific details on how to help your planet, yourself, and others. We recommend not ignoring what will come through for you. For if you choose not to act on the dream and intuition, this will be passed on to another. There is no right or wrong with this. We want to make it clear of the opportunities one has when the gift of a dream comes through to you. Antigua and Mother Mary. Our next story continues with the theme of dreams and following one's intuition. We speak about a small boy in Brazil. His name was Antigua. Antigua lived in complete poverty His daily routine was to go through the garbage at the landfill and find treasures of food, clothing, or shoes that he could sell to others on the street. His mother was a maid, and his sisters would look after their siblings while she was away, working 18-hour days. One day, Antigua was dared by the other boys in the landfill to climb on top of the hill where the statue of Christ stood. Once Antigua reached the top, the boys wanted to know what Christ said to Antigua. Antigua never backed down from a dare and agreed before he realized how long the journey would take him. He asked one of the boys to go tell his sisters where he would be and to let them know he may not be back until nighttime. Antigua began the long journey up the rocky hill to the statue that overlooked the city. He came across snakes and lizards and started to see birds that he would not normally see living in the city. His little body got tired very quickly after a few hours of climbing, and he decided to take a nap behind a shaded tree. Antigua quickly drifted off to sleep and dreamed of another place, a faraway land where he was sitting and feeling happy. His body looked healthy, and he was at peace. Antigua felt no hunger, no worry, and no concern. He was met by a beautiful lady in blue clothing, and she said her name was Mary. Antigua knew who this was. This was Mother Mary, the mother of the statue he was going to see and talk to. Mary smiled at him and talked to Antigua through his mind. Antigua, you will not find what you are looking for at the top of this hill. There will be an accident that can cause great harm to you and distress to your family. The statue is but an image of my son and does not represent what our teachings were meant to do. We are all love, and each one of us is connected through a consciousness of energy and light. No entity or energy is above anyone else. You are just as powerful as my son, just as wise, and just as loving. These teachings have been misinterpreted, rewritten, and reformulated to allow the ones in power to control the masses. I know you may not understand the bigger picture right now, but these words will stay with you throughout your life, and one day you will understand. You will see the deception of power and the ones that choose to lead this way. It is through the heart, compassion, and great sovereignty that one is connected to Source. Antigua, you are a soul of great kindness and have many wonderful things to teach others while you are here. The choice is yours to make if you would like to continue up the hill or go back to your siblings and mother. I leave you with one last piece of knowledge, Antigua. Never give up on life. You will fight through the poverty, the harshness of others, and the unfairness of your world. You have a gentle, kind soul, and you will be an example to others as your light leads the way. Antigua stood up before Mother Mary as she shimmered and vanished before his eyes, and he woke up underneath the tree. Antigua sat up and wondered if this dream was true. It felt so real. Antigua felt torn. He didn't want to show his face to the boys, saying he didn't make it to the statue. He certainly wasn't going to tell anyone about his dream. Antigua decided to continue up the hill. He wasn't going to chicken out now and be looked down upon by those that dared him. Antigua had too much pride. He stretched his body and started climbing up the hill once again. He reached a part of the slope where a massive rock face was before him. Antigua could climb the rock face to save time, or climb back down part way and find another way up that was safer. Antigua's stubbornness got the better of him, and he began to climb the rock face. with the hot sun now beating down on Antigua. His hands and fingers were slippery with sweat. His little legs began shaking as he continued to climb the rock. Antigua was so tired now. It was hot, he was thirsty, and he didn't know what he was doing. Antigua clung to the rock face, sweat pouring down his face, stinging his eyes. He wished he would have listened to Mother Mary. He had two choices: to wait, hoping someone would come and get him, or he could jump. Antigua didn't know how long he could wait with his body pressed against the rock, hoping he wouldn't slip, his body shaking from exhaustion. If Antigua jumped, he knew he wouldn't make it. The drop was too great. Antigua's eyes filled with tears. He took a shaky, deep breath and asked for help. "Mother Mary, I'm sorry. I should have listened. Please help me. I didn't want to be chicken in front of those boys. Please help me." Antigua began to cry softly while holding on to the rock for his dear life. He felt a hand, an invisible large hand, the size of a giant's, lifting him up from underneath, boosting him up to the next ledge that opened to a path that led him back home. Antigua couldn't believe what had just happened. He wasn't going to waste another minute or second guess this opportunity that he was given. He clambered down from the ledge, physically exhausted and emotionally drained. Slowly, Antigua began making his way back down the path and got home at nightfall. His sisters were furious with him. They never received a message from the other boys. However, when they saw Antigua, who was dirty, tear-stained, and on the brink of crying, they held him as fresh new tears began to flow. Antigua told his sisters of the dare that morning, his dream where he fell asleep up the hill, and his near-death experience. His sisters listened intently, providing Antigua the space to tell his story. When Antigua finished speaking, his sisters cleaned him up, gave him a piece of bread, and tucked him into bed. As Antigua drifted off to sleep, laying on his side, he thanked Mother Mary for saving him and her words of wisdom. Never again would he doubt the information that he felt true in his heart. Even though Antigua was only a small boy, he was a changed soul. From that day on, when he looked through the trash, Antigua felt excitement inside him because he knew he would find something of worth each day. He held gratitude in his heart every single day for his mother working so hard and for his sisters looking after him and his siblings. There was a change even within Antigua's mother and siblings after Antigua's near-death experience. They noticed a change in Antigua's attitude, and they too, over time, began to change their attitudes to one of hope. An outsider looking in would see their circumstances and see no way out of their life. However, Antigua and his family began to look at the wonder in life. With this attitude change, other events also shifted in their life. Antigua began to listen to his intuition and would find a hidden piece of jewelry in a jacket that was in the garbage. One day he found cash, real money that was in a wallet that had been forgotten about. Antigua didn't ask the questions about how this came to be. He was in gratitude and knew that this life and his family's life would get better and better each day, and they did. Soon they had enough to eat on a regular basis. Little by little, there were positive changes that happened for Antigua and his family. His mother found another place of employment where she got paid the same as her other jobs, but now she worked 8 hours a day instead of 18. Antigua found a sewing machine in the garbage and hauled it home. Even though it took most of the day to bring it home, he knew it was worth it. He cleaned it up and gave it to his sisters. With the little money they had from Antigua selling his finds on the street, his sisters bought enough fabric to begin making scarves and other items of clothing that Antigua sold in the markets. His sisters' creations became such a hit that Antigua no longer had to go to the landfill. His family needed him to sell the items in the markets. Every night before Antigua went to sleep, he thanked his family, his guidance, and the wonderful opportunities that now came to him and his family each day. Mother Mary instilled in Antigua not to give his power away by thinking another being was above him. Instead, he brought his own power back to himself, and he changed his outcome. He did this on his own. No other did this for him. Yes, he was helped along the way, but he could have also chosen not to follow the guidance. Antigua thanked Mother Mary every night for her visit of insight and wisdom on the hill. He truly was a changed soul. Later on in Antigua's life, he did go on to teach others until his death at the age of 56. Every human can change their outcome no matter what they are dealing with, whether it be neglect, abuse, poverty, or violence. Your soul has the power, the energy, and the fortitude to grow, learn, and integrate to be the soul that you came here to be. When in an abusive situation, the soul is in survival mode. Trust that you have the strength and courage to rise out of your situation. Ask for help, and when you ask, be clear in what you need and want. You are a powerful being that has come here to experience what it is to be human and to live a life on Earth as your planet evolves and shifts into the new. It is no easy task incarnating on Earth. In the bigger picture, you being here as a soul in this incarnation is one of the most critical, important roles in humanity's ascension. Do not doubt your light or how incredible you are as a being. Each human is needed now to shine and to be who they are meant to be.